My parents and I have a tense relationship. When we were kids, my parents would tell me for your birthday, "Here, I got you a GameCube, and I also put $200 towards your college fund." When I was in 11th grade, they told me they aren't going to give me any money for college. They spent all of it on my sister. They told me that they would help me qualify for loans, but it was on me. Their reasoning was that women make less money than men and have less advantages in life, and that they wanted us to be equal, so they paid for my sister's college education, but not mine. When I was in college, all they would give me would be like $200 of spending money every time I would come back home, which was like 2 or 3 times a year. I moved on, and I have done decent taking care of the loans. During college, I kept my distance from my parents, and I think after that they wanted to help me out more and offered to help me out with my loans, but I said no. Also, to add, my parents' and sister's relationship fell apart. She started dating a guy, and he told her she doesn't want her to talk to our parents anymore. Now, I got invited over to their house after a while. I usually just said I was busy, but I came. This time they had some furniture they bought from Amazon in boxes, and their internet was having problems. They asked me to help them out. I told them I could fix this, but they have to pay me. I'm not going to spend my weekend. For the furniture, I looked up the installation cost, and I would do it for the same price, $300. And for the internet, I would do it for $100. My mom got really upset with me that after all they did, I want to charge them. I told them that after college, I didn't expect them to do anything for me for free, and they shouldn't expect me to do anything for free. They brought up that they offered to help, and I told them I don't care, and I didn't accept it. Not the a-hole. They treated you terribly. I have a son and daughter, and I can't imagine helping out one more than the other. Have you told them how much they hurt you? Not the a-hole. It was not okay for them to tell you they were putting money away and then spend it on your sister. Do they plan to ask your sister to help care for them in their elder years? Not the a-hole. Just take it out of my college fund money. Remember? You said I couldn't have it for college, so you still have it, right? You didn't lie to me all those birthdays, did you? Me, 31 male, and my ex-wife, 36 female, finalized our divorce 3 years ago, and she got to keep my apartment in Barcelona. I got a decent payout, since it's Barcelona real estate, and the 2 acres of land she inherited near the Pyrenees, France. Let us be clear, I did not win that fight. Even with the land sale and the payout combined, the apartment is still worth well more than triple that sum. I had a job on the coast where I lived the last 4 years. My ex continued to squat the cottage for her holidays and getaways, even though she knew I hated it. But I wasn't living there, so the cops weren't going to be useful. My fiancé and I were sick of living in town. We'd been talking about moving into forest isolation for ages, and the lockdown was the last straw. I told my ex I was moving to the cottage to collect what she had left behind and say her final goodbyes. The cottage wasn't suited for my fiancé's needs, and we needed more land to grow and build everything we wanted. So we found a bigger plot, and I sold mine to pay for it. The buyer offered me more than asking price, but he wanted no infrastructure on it. Easy money. I demolished and removed everything ASAP. Edit. We sold fast because we wanted to buy fast before others could. My ex went there a while ago and found the land fenced off, no cottage and landscaping being redone. She was distraught, felt betrayed, heartbroken that I sold, and to someone who nuked it all. She said I should have asked her opinion on the buyer or found alternatives to selling, as she had deep emotional attachment to the land, and many plants were there thanks to her family and herself. And now she no longer had her safe place in France, should Spain get progressively more unstable, like it's currently evolving. I agreed that I should have told her I sold, but not with the rest. I could have asked her if she wanted to buy it, but when she saw what it had sold for, she confessed she would have refused to buy it for more than her grandfather did. And money isn't everything, heritage matters. I was not about to argue with that level of delusion and hypocrisy, so I stayed silent and let her vent. It's been weeks, and my ex still cries about it. Maybe I should have given her a chance to fight for it. She was never going to outbid anyone, but she may have had an easier time letting go had things been different. Saying that, I didn't want to deal with her theatrics or have her putting off buyers. I have no regrets. I bought what my fiancé and I wanted, and if my ex was so set on the land, and it was her safe house, she should have negotiated better. She chose to keep my inheritance in exchange for hers. I think she needs to suck up the consequences of her decisions and start understanding what it means to be an ex-wife. So yes, I should have told her I was selling. Who I sold to was legally none of her concern. But am I the a-hole for not asking her opinion before putting it on the market, or not telling her what the buyer planned to do? Edit. People keep asking me why I'm in this much contact with my ex. This has been the most contact we've had in the past 3 years, and it's strictly limited to her land. It's barely been a month since she found out. My fiancé isn't worried because I'm only talking to the ex because I sold that land to get us our dream. Calm down. Ex is going to be cut off 100%, and she doesn't know where I moved to. Edit 2. Some are stuck on the her family's cottage part. Was I not clear that the apartment was my family's? If heritage meant so much I had to preserve it for her or take her into consideration, why isn't the same said for me? I didn't want to lose mine, but was willing to compromise. She legally didn't want her land and didn't want to compromise, hence today's situation. Not the a-hole. No, she lost that when the divorce was finalized. Just because she continued to stay there when she had no legal right doesn't change the fact it was your land and your cottage to do with as you wish. I gotta go not the a-hole. You already said it. If this land was that important to her, why didn't she fight for it in the settlement? Once the divorce was final, it was yours. I feel for her, but it seems she made poor choices during the divorce, which isn't your fault, unless there's more to the story. Sounds like the divorce settlements were a mess. You didn't owe her anything. That said, her being sad about losing something important to her doesn't make her an a-hole, unless she harasses you or something. No a-holes here. So, for context, I, 29 female, have 3 children with my wife, 28 female, R, 6 female, J, 4 female, and A, 3 male. My sister, 31 female, was getting married and asked that my eldest daughter be the flower girl. My sister and I aren't close, since I live in France and my family is in the US, but I agreed. When we flew to my hometown a week before the wedding, I was surprised to learn that there were multiple flower girls, 3 others, ranging from 3 to 7 years old, the daughters of friends. I didn't have a problem with that, but I did worry a bit that Jay would feel left out. My wife asked my sister about it casually over dinner at my parents' 4 days before the wedding, to see if there was any chance Jay could be included. I didn't want her to have to change any major plans, and I was okay with her saying no, but we were more so curious about the reason for the exclusion. She told us, however, that the reason was because she and her fiancé wanted a certain look for all their flower girls. For context, my wife is blonde with blue eyes, and she carried R and A, both of whom look a lot like her. My family and I have brown hair and brown eyes. I carried J, and she looks like me. My sister dyes her hair blonde, however, and her husband is very fair. I quickly realized that the other flower girls were all blonde, so I asked my sister if that was the reason for Jay's exclusion. She told me it was, and that her and her fiancé thought it would be cuter if all the flower girls were adorable blue-eyed blondes, like his family and their future kids. My wife and I freaked out at this, and called my sister some pretty nasty things. Psychotic fascist might have been thrown around, and I backed her up because I was angry too. We left, and the next morning I texted my sister that R would not be a flower girl. I didn't think this would be a huge deal, since they had multiple. She was furious though, and she called me crying about how stressful wedding planning is and how my wife and I were being very inconsiderate. She told me that my wife needed to apologize for her outburst at dinner. I told her that she'd done nothing to show that what my wife said was wrong. On the day of the wedding, my wife and I decided to just leave all the kids with a friend of mine, since we didn't want them involved in what was going on. My wife and I were polite throughout the wedding and mingled with other guests, but didn't talk to my sister. Now, some of my family members have reached out and told me that my wife and I were really selfish and horrible to my sister, and that we made a big deal over nothing on my sister's big day. My aunt likened the situation to picking out bridesmaids' dresses, and that wanting her flower girls to all look alike was totally normal. It still feels wrong to me, and my wife is still livid. I do realize, though, that maybe we spoke a little too harshly to my sister in the heat of the moment, and I'm wondering if I should have apologized for getting so angry at the very least. I don't know. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your sister wanted an Aryan wedding party. Gross. Aside from your aunt, people aren't accessories. You get matching flower girls, bridesmaids, whatevs by coordinating their outfits, not their ethnicities. Not the a-hole. And does your brown-haired sister really believe that by dyeing her own hair blonde, she'll end up with fair-haired children? I wonder if her new husband realizes she's not blonde naturally, or that brown eyes are dominant genes. Look forward to their brood of brown-haired and brown-eyed children. Not the a-hole. This is one of the creepiest things I've ever read about weddings here, and that's saying something. It would be after the actual wedding. My twin brother and his girlfriend are getting married in Paris on 31/8. Me and my girlfriend of 3 years are taking the Eurostar there on 29/8, as are a lot of our family and mutual friends. After the wedding, on 1/9, the newlyweds are heading to the south of France for their honeymoon. But me, my girlfriend, my parents, and a few friends have decided, separately, to stay a couple extra days. Me and my girlfriend don't leave until 5/9. Our friends leave the day before. My parents leave the day after. I've asked her about proposing, and she said she'd love for me to propose, and she'd say yes, and we agreed to a public proposal. She loves cliches and thinks Paris is really romantic, but she doesn't think I'll propose anytime soon. I asked in a way where it could be any time. I want to take her to the Eiffel Tower on 3/9, just the two of us, and pop the question. I want to do it on that date specifically, as our friends and family will still be in Paris, and she said she would want to tell them as soon as it happened. However, this would mean doing it literally 3 days after my brother's wedding. I don't know if that's the best idea, but the only reason we can go to Paris is that my parents are paying for everything. I don't know when we'll next be able to go. Would I be the a-hole? Edit. I asked my brother and he just said, "Your proposal, up to you." But I don't know if that actually means he's alright with it. It kind of reminds me of that line in Jurassic Park. Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether they could do that, they didn't stop to think if they should. Also, my girlfriend and I got together in Paris. We went with some friends, including the ones who will be in Paris on the date. At some point on the first trip, we got drunk and admitted we liked each other. We went there as friends and left in a relationship, and had our first date at a cafe near the Eiffel Tower. Admittedly, not the most romantic story, but it's ours, and proposing in the same place feels right. If we'd gotten together back in England, I'd still have gone wherever we had our first date to propose. My brother and his bride have never been. I know they're getting married there, but if it's anyone's place, it's ours. Didn't want to say this in case people think I'm trying to reclaim it or some stuff, but now people are saying it's my brother and his bride's place, so doing anything there would lose significance for them. And while I know we can't claim a city, if either couple gets Paris, it's just not my brother. For everyone saying we're already engaged, I asked my girlfriend if when I proposed, she'd want a public or private proposal, and if she'd want it to be a surprise. She said it was my call. I want to take her back to where we got together to propose. So my choices are either the Eiffel Tower or a room in a youth hostel, and the tower feels like the more romantic option. No a-holes. 3 days later is a solid buffer. On the other hand, everyone is still there from the wedding, so it kind of feels related to it. Yes, the a-hole. Not a big a-hole, but maybe a bit thoughtless. Paris is a destination your brother and his fiancée have chosen for their wedding, something special to them. I don't think it's appropriate to propose on this trip. It's hard being a twin sometimes because you feel like nothing is ever just yours, and I think you should respect that this was their romantic destination, not yours. Also, you say you'd want to celebrate it with your family, but you'd be doing it without your brother, and I think that kind of sucks, especially if you're doing it just after his wedding. Not the a-hole. Everything seems perfectly aligned for an extremely romantic proposal. If you really don't want to feel like you could be the a-hole, you can talk to your twin about this. I'm pretty sure he's going to be thrilled for you. Update. I asked my brother's fiancée directly, and she got really mad at me for stealing the spotlight. So this is now a non-issue. It's not happening. Hi, I'm 21 female. I have 2 sisters, Haley, 23 female, who shares a mother and father with me, and Rebecca, 19 female, who shares a father with us, as well as 2 brothers, one older, one younger. Growing up, we all got along as well, but Haley and I were closest because we always lived together, shared rooms together, and had the same friends group. Our relationship with Rebecca was wonderful. I loved hanging out with her. We have a lot of fun together, and she's an awesome person. But we were just never as close as Haley and I. Completely circumstantially, Rebecca lived with her mom and our youngest brother and went to a different school than us. After years of saving, last year, Haley and I had saved up enough of our money that we could live in France for 6 months. And while we were living there, this sweet little woman who lived across from us would call us Les Sœurs Fantaisies, the Fancy Sisters, which the 2 of us found hilarious. When we came back to the US, we decided that we wanted to get that tattooed on our wrists, since it's such a special reminder of a wonderful time in our life. Unfortunately, the pandemic happened, and the first chance we got to get the tattoos was last week. A few days after we got them done, Rebecca posted something cryptic on Facebook about toxic people, but we didn't read into it. It's social media. The next day, our oldest brother calls us to tell us that Rebecca is enraged, that neither me nor Haley reached out to her about getting the tattoo, and we didn't say anything about the Facebook post that we had to know was about us. We didn't. I can definitely see why she'd be upset that we didn't involve her in the tattoo, but it's not like it's just a sister's tattoo. We got it to remember our time in France. It's not like we didn't involve Rebecca because we didn't love her, or don't think she's our sister. Haley and I both spoke to Rebecca, who says that she should have been involved with the tattoo because she's our sister, and the context of it doesn't matter. Am I the a-hole for not asking Rebecca to get the tattoo with us? Edited to add. Rebecca was still in high school when we went to France, so it wasn't possible for her or our younger brother to come. Not the a-hole. As for people suggesting another tattoo, unless you actually want one with her, then I would highly advise you not to permanently mark your body to humor someone else. As for cryptic Facebook BS, I'd completely ignore it. If Rebecca has an issue, she can speak to you like a grown-up. Not the a-hole. The context absolutely does matter. Anyway, she's feeling left out and probably has felt that way for some time. She shouldn't have posted on Facebook. She should have just talked to you 2, and she needs to know that that's not okay. Maybe you guys should try something to bond together as sisters. She clearly wants to spend time with you both, just going about it in the wrong way. Not the a-hole, although I can see why she would be upset because she might be feeling left out. I don't think you guys were the a-hole for getting the tattoo together. I would probably make a greater effort to include her in later activities. But getting a tattoo with someone who you aren't super close with is not something you have to do.